Hey there everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Inc. My name is Wyeth, and we're going over part 2 of the tier lists. Just trying to figure out some of those last placements for some of those great series that we have in store for you. Remember, you can check out any of these books in the description below. There is a referral link. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. Alright, next on the list is the Inheritance game. I actually just did a video on this one. Now, it is a mystery thriller. So again, not in the fantasy scope, but still it was quite enjoyable. I think my favorite book was book number 4, The Brothers Hawthorne, and I actually clicked and bought that one thinking it was the first one in a series. The main premise from book number 1 is a young gal with a very good head on her shoulders is contacted to be at the signing of a will of a Texan billionaire, and she is gifted a fairly sizable portion. So now she has to try and figure out how to live with all this money as well as the drama that ensues. I did enjoy this one, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it at the top of pretty dang good. The reason I'm doing that is because it's usually not my wheelhouse. I always wanted to give it a shot, this mystery feel. But again, this is mainly a fantasy channel, and that is a mystery thriller. Here we go with The Name of the Wind. Such a good series, the Kingkiller Chronicles. This is definitely a must-read. I'm gonna go ahead and even put it above Mistborn. The Name of the Wind, aka the Kingkiller Chronicles, is a phenomenal 2-book series, and my goodness, I've got so much love for the protagonist, Quoth. We're getting his perspective. He's telling a story about his life in his later years, and he's telling us a story about all the crazy things he did as a young man, while still being this kind of sheltered innkeeper. All in all, it's so freaking good, and it would be higher if we had another book out. Currently, it only has 2 books out, so that's why it's not a little higher on this list, but all in all, just such a good book, and I'll say it again, it is a pillar of the fantasy series. Promise of Blood. This is the Powder Mage trilogy right here. And I did enjoy it. Again, similar to Jade City, aka the Greenbound Saga, its magic system is built upon an item, and that is basically gunpowder. Some people have the ability to snort gunpowder and drastically increase their senses, which definitely helps when you're fighting a war with muskets. And it is a very entertaining series. I'm gonna go ahead and put it right above Mother of Learning. I did have a lot of fun reading it. I just didn't get sucked into it as much as some of these other series that are higher than it. But at the end of the day, it's a very good series to check on out if you're interested in that kind of magic system. And the characters are nothing to scoff at either. Here we go, Dresden Files, definitely going to be a must-read. It was probably a lot higher on my list. I'm gonna go ahead and put it right behind Mistborn. Now, Dresden as a character, this book started as a low fantasy following a wizard PI, and I really do enjoy this. It's tying together a lot of the old fantasy tropes into a new age modern feel. All in all, I really do enjoy Harry Dresden as a character. I know he doesn't vibe with everyone, but to me personally, I think he's been crafted and shaped into a much harder person, and that's really what brings this book so high in my opinion. When it comes to the Poppy War, this book series is definitely not for everyone, but it is for me, and I really did enjoy it. I'm gonna go ahead and put it right above Mistborn. Now, R.F. Kuang is a young writer, and this was a series I believe she started when she was 20 years old, and she's only gotten better as a writer. Our main protagonist is able to go against society and kind of climb through the ranks of a military school through her grit and her determination, and it's also a magic system based on an item. But these items happen to be psychedelic drugs, which I do get a bit of a kick out of. Now, this is a very grim, dark fantasy, so if that is not your jive, this is not a series for you. But for me, it 100% hits the mark, and I love it to no end. Primal Hunter. This is one of the most recent lit RPG series I've read, and one I have very much enjoyed so far. It follows a young office worker named Jake, whose world basically is incurred upon, similar to Defiance, but at the same time, he chooses to be an archer, and he becomes a very, very powerful archer at that. And he is able to make a really good friendship with a god, which is probably why I very much do enjoy it so far. I thought the last book that was released was a very, very good idea for the author to do, kind of switching things up a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this, oh my god, it looks like the Kingkiller Chronicles is kind of like the barrier to entry here. So I am going to go ahead and put it right behind there. It's a phenomenal lit RPG if that is your vibe, and you should definitely check it out. I believe it has about 5 or 6 books out currently, and it looks like it is not stopping anytime soon. Now, The Reckoners. This is the Brandon Sanderson superhero fiction, and I got a lot of good memories off of this book. I am going to put it right above Delvers. Now, The Reckoners kind of is like a YA The Boys, the TV show, and it follows a young protagonist trying to get some vengeance from the superheroes that have done him dirty. From my recollection, we get a bit of a romance in it, and, you know, all around it is a really good book, but it does tend to fall on that YA feel, and we already discussed that. Now, Red Rising, the series I just wrapped up with. Oh my goodness. I want to so badly. I am going to put it here just in case something might bump it down, but I loved Red Rising. Now, I only read the first 3 books of the series, and I stopped kind of halfway into the 4th book because we get a little bit of a time jump there, and I really wanted to almost keep it pure, in my opinion, if you kind of understand what I'm saying, and because I thought the first 3 books was a perfect series, and I almost wish I didn't even pick up the 4th book. Not to say that the rest of it's bad, I honestly couldn't tell you, but I needed to kind of change up the vibe a little bit. I didn't want to spoil my memories of it by, continuing on. Those of you out there who have finished the series, please let me know if I should keep continuing, or if I made the right decision with keeping it just for the first 3. Just a brief description on it. Our main protagonist is named Darrow, and he is at the bottom of the caste system, and they are currently living on Mars, colonizing it for future generations. And he learns some secrets, and he then decides to take on the world almost. And I just loved it so much. Very much a grim fantasy, and it just hits the mark for me in every single section. Now, when it comes to Cradle, I really did enjoy this book. This series has a very Eastern feel to it, and our main protagonist, Lyndon, comes from a small village who are just kind of like secluded in their own portion of the world, and as Lyndon himself grows in power, since this is a progression fantasy, those around him also are either left in the dust or they have to try to grab onto Lyndon's coattails, and I really do enjoy it. I believe it's a 10 or 12 book series, and I thought the ending was very well wrapped up. I am going to put it right above Poppy War, in my opinion, though that is a tough decision. Now we'll come to Riyria Revelations, with our main 2 protagonists, Royce and Hadrian. Another great friendship between our 2 main protagonists. Now, they are a band of thieves who have a little bit of a different opinion when it comes to their morals, and we get a lot of great conversations between the 2 of them, and the whole aspect of having it named Riyria Revelations is we don't learn a lot about the characters in the first few books, or at least their background, and throughout the series we get more and more information between these 2 gentlemen, and it's just done so dang well. I am going to put it right above Orconomics. I really did enjoy this series a lot. Sandman Slim. This is a very interesting low fantasy. It's very grim. We have a protagonist named Sandman Slim, or at least that is his moniker, and he has just returned from hell, and he is on a path of vengeance for those who sent him downtown, as he likes to put it. And it is based in LA, and the author has, you can tell this like love-hate relationship where, you know, in one line he's just spitting contempt at the society of what LA has turned into, and then on the next page, you know, Sandman Slim saying, you know, he could never leave. This is basically his home. And it does have, in my opinion, a couple flops throughout the series, but at the same time, the concept is just so freaking cool. It really is. And I'm gonna put this right above the Reckoners. If you're looking for a protagonist that bashes the very modernized society, then this is the book for you. I actually am about to drop a video on this series. This is the Siege series, starting out with 16 ways to defend a walled city. And so far, I'm loving this series. It switches perspectives for every single book, and, you know, it's based around the siege of a people who haven't really done the most morally righteous actions in the past, and they're kind of getting what's coming to them, but at the same time, due to the people who should not be protagonists taking the reins, are able to try their best to survive the very bad situations that they are currently in. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I have not finished book 3, so that's why it's not going to be higher, but I am going to put it right behind the Kingkiller Chronicles. Be sure to keep an eye out for that video in the future if you want more information on this one. Stormlight Archives. This, some would say, is the must-read for the fantasy series. I'm going to put it right behind Lies of Locke Lamora. It has currently 4 books out, if my memory serves, and a couple of novellas at that, and Brandon Sanderson, this is his magnum opus, and there's multiple videos out there on it. If you don't know about it, then definitely it needs to be on your TBR list because it is so freaking good. But sometimes you can get lost in all of the characters, all of the actions. It's similar to The Wheel of Time, but at the end of the day, it is very, very well done. Here we have Street Rats of Aramore. This is a fun series, it really is. It follows a protagonist who is a young man named Arian, and he is Umpaken. So he is a trained assassin, and the rest of the world will utilize his people's experience for the former aspect that was just discussed, but they very much do look down upon them, and you can tell when you are Umpaken by the color of your eyes. I believe they are gray in Arian's case. And oh, it's just so good, and it follows him, you know, having to live his life outside of his family's clan. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I'm going to put it right behind Defiance of the Fall. It is a great, great series, kind of on the YA feel, but definitely has some a very adult themes to it, so something to consider. That was actually a couple of my first videos were on this series for the channel, so if you want to see worse editing and a more monotone voice, feel free to go check out those videos. Here we are with The Terminal List. Now this is a thriller series by Jack Carr, a former Navy SEAL, if I remember correctly. The Amazon series by the same name, starring Chris Pratt, came out about 2 years ago, and it did so much justice to the first book. I really do enjoy this series so much. I am gonna go ahead and put it right in front of Sandman Slim for me. Now, it is a thriller series, and it's following a man who is on a path of vengeance, and Jack Carr has so many great interviews of what gave him the inspiration for the series, and a couple on the Joe Rogan podcast. So if you're interested in learning more about the author, there's some great avenues to check it out, or if you just want to check out the TV show, feel free to look into that as well. The Traitor Blade. This series is so dang similar in vibes to the Theft of Swords, aka Riyria Revelations. I am going to put it right in front of the Alloy of Law Wax and Wane series. It is a completed series, which is nothing to scoff at there, given this list at the very least. And our main protagonist is basically a former knight of the realm, and they had to take the blame for the death of their king. And they're trying to pick themselves back on up and kind of do some mercenary work here while also defending the meek when they get the opportunity to. And it's just such a great series. Definitely check this one out if you don't know anything about it. Now, this is the Land of the Undying Lord, and I believe the series follows a young man who is a summon. So already off to kind of an interesting plot device here. He is summoned by a fairly pompous young gal of noble birth, and since he's not a creature that she can use in battle, she pretty much discards him immediately. And lo and behold, since he's the protagonist, he is able to learn so very quickly and becomes a bit of a monster in his own right. And I had a lot of fun with this one, so I'm going to go ahead and put it right behind Delvers LLC. It's probably not a little higher because it's been so long since I read the book series, and I'm very much looking forward to the next book that comes out, though at the same time the concept is so dang cool. Here it is, the tough decision, guys. There can only be three. Yeah, sorry, Red Rising. Oh man, this is so tough. I think both of these are really, really perfect books. This is not a perfect book, but it is my favorite series. Those of you who watch my channel definitely know why this is a tough decision, at least when it comes to The Wandering Inn. I am going to go ahead and drop Red Rising down and put it right there. It is a must-read, at the top of the must-reads in my opinion, but gee willikers, that is a tough, tough decision. It really, really is. Vladimir Tod. This is a fun YA vampire series that I read years and years, basically when I was a middle schooler myself, and oh my god, I put this in as a laugh. I really did. But it has, from what I remember, really good plot. You know, it definitely falls into kind of like those early 2010 movies like The Maze Runner and Twilight. I really did enjoy this series a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a very enjoyable. I'll be sure to give this series to my angsty kid when I have them one day, so they can enjoy it as much as I did. All right, coming down to our last two. Now, this is The Wheel of Time. Comparable to The Lord of the Rings, it's definitely helped build out the fantasy genre in itself, though it is a grind to get through. It's got, I believe, 4 million words total, if I'm remembering correctly, as well as over 1,000 named characters. It is the highest high fantasy, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it right above Kingkiller Chronicles, in my opinion. Daniel Green is known as the Wheel of Time guy, so if you're interested in learning more about this series, he's gonna give a much better explanation to it than I will, as well as the new Amazon series has recently come out, and I believe they just dropped their 2nd season, so it definitely has a very, very devoted fan group, and I did enjoy the series, but there were sections of it I just had to skip because it'd be about a character who got 2 to 3 chapters and then we'd never see them again. So, you know, it is a grind, but at the end of the day, it very much deserves to be in a must-read if you consider yourself a fantasy reader who has an addiction. Now, finally, our last choice is Dungeon Crawler Carl. We're gonna need to make some decisions here. I love Dungeon Crawler Carl. It is so dang funny, as well as so heartbreaking. And the author has a true talent to be able to mix those two. I'm sorry guys, I really am. I love Dungeon Crawler Carl so much, and I know my audience is gonna tear me apart, but for those of you who have not given this series a chance, definitely do. It's such an interesting plot. Our main protagonist, Carl, is just a regular guy, and he learns one day in the middle of the night when he is outside chasing his cats that the world, Earth in this case, has been basically claimed by the Alien Federation, and they are going to be strip mining the planet. But at the same time, they are also running a reality TV show on the antics in the dungeon, which the humans have to go into if they want to survive, unless they want to pillage and create societies on the above Earth while it's being colonized. Just so dang good. It is so dang good, and I cannot wait for book 7 or 8. We'll see. But it's going to be faction war times, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna have so much fun with that book. All in all, I do appreciate everyone coming to check out this tier list video. Please let me know what you thought of some of my choices here. Again, those links for the must-reads and the top 3 are going to be in the description below if any of them pique your interest. Thanks again. Really do appreciate all y'all's support, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your week, and be sure to keep reading. Feel free to let me know y'all's thoughts on my placements. I would love to get in the comments and have some great discussions, as well as please let me know what y'all's top 3 are. I think it would be awesome to get some great recommendations from you all, and maybe y'all see a recommendation video in the future if I fancy the book. Thank y'all very much for your time, and be sure to keep reading.